Spring has to be one of my favourite times of year. The simple joys of the defrosting of winter and being able to go outside with just a t-shirt and a pair of shorts on. It's just absolutely amazing. The birdsong that you wake up to in the morning and the late night sunsets, how people favour winter, I really don't know. There are lots of gorgeous light and good times to be had, and that's why in this video I'll be using a budget setup. I'll be using my thrifted Olympus superzoom 105R with Kodak Colour Plus 200 with 24 exposures, and I'm really excited to use this combination. It really doesn't get much cheaper than this. The film stock cost me £8 for 24 exposures, and the camera itself I think was £15 or £20 from a charity shop. And if I'm being honest, I'm using a point and shoot because I wanted to be really lazy. I wanted to go out and enjoy my days of the first few days of spring, but still document it, so I let this thing do all the settings for me so I can just take a few snapshots but still have an artistic twist, don't worry, but to still really enjoy my days. I haven't used Kodak Colour Plus before, and this is 24 exposures and it cost me £8. The only thing I know about it is that it cost me £8 and it's pretty cheap. The dynamic range is pretty poor, but the colours tend to lean towards more of the warmer side, which is a personal preference of mine. And with this combination, I'm really looking forward to the images, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Open air, side by side we sway there in all the colors. Summer love, lonesome love, folded on the lawn chair in all the colors. Summer love.
So these few shots, actually I took a lot of inspiration from the Hoxha mini press books I own, and in particular An English Summer by the Hoxha mini press, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it correctly. I don't think you can see it, but Chanel Irvin, I hope that's correct. I hope I haven't butchered that. But the shots in this book are absolutely gorgeous, and this one in particular. With my own shots, I wanted to compose it in a similar sense, to have like a higher angle and shooting down towards like a smaller subject, I guess. And the shot that I took inspiration from this book was actually shooting down, and there was a couple of people walking along the beach and the coastline, and you can see the cliffs, and they are quite small compared to the surroundings, and that's the kind of perspective that I wanted for these shots in particular. And using this composition, I'm really happy with how these shots came out.
Summer love. Memory washed in every shade of green in all the colors. Summer love.
I actually shot this image twice, and purely because I had the flash on, and this is a problem that I found with the Olympus superzoom 105R, and I do apologise, I can't remember who commented it, but someone commented saying exactly the same thing, that every time you turn the camera on, the flash also turns on and you have to turn it off, and if you don't remember to turn it off, then it's just a bit of a nightmare. But I shot it twice as I wasn't too sure how the image was going to come out, and both shots were fairly similar, to be fair. I'm not really sure why I like the image. I think it's just the subject matter. It's quite rustic. It reminds me so much of being a child, being in Cornwall. There's a coffee shop and you can see, I don't know, the surrounding area is just gorgeous. The compositionally it's okay, the shot is kind of in the middle, and then there's someone on the bottom left but you can't really see her. But overall I'm quite a big fan of the image.
That's sure something I could use. A cure for the air conditioning blues.
So actually on the beach there is the original, I'm assuming the original cliff face, and then a bridge over to the lasting cliff face that's there now. And there's a bridge that's connecting the two, and I think it's pretty good to photograph with. It frames very, very well. And I kind of waited and just hoped that some people would walk through, and people did walk through, and I took two shots, and I'm happier with the second one where you can actually see the two people together with their dogs, instead of before they're a bit more staggered, and I didn't quite like how that ended up compositionally, so I waited, shot it again for the people to catch up to each other, and I'm really happy with how this shot came out. It's not one that I think is a standout, but I think it's quite nice for like a contextual shot of the day, kind of a bit of a filler image, but I still think it looks very, very nice. And considering that I was actually using a very cheap point and shoot film camera and the very cheap film stock, I'm really happy with how these beach shots came out, and I'm sure on screen right now are my favourites of the day. And with the way that the images were composed, I'm really happy because the lens is a 38 to 105mm lens, so I had quite a lot of range to explore and to kind of photograph dynamically in different areas. As you can see, there's more wider shots and some of them are more zoomed into 50mm plus, and I'm really happy with how those came out, and I think I'll probably be posting them on my Instagram at some point soon if you're wanting to see them. At Granny Creates, it's the same as the YouTube handle. If you go to Cornwall, you have to go to the arcades. It's basically a ritual at this point, and it's still one of the few places you can find the 2p machines, as I will not play the 10p machines. That's way too expensive. I did actually stumble across a subreddit where people were in America, you use quarters. Like, that's 25p-ish on the conversion rate. That's crazy. I'm using a 2p and I will only use the 2p's. But did me and my sister spend quite a few quid on this? Yeah, of course we did. But did we get any 2p's back? Hardly ever. But we got our tickets and we got 5 lollipops out of it. So a win is a win, and it was definitely worth it. The images were also really worth it. I'm really happy with this shot in particular. I'm actually really impressed on how this camera metered for the shot. I'm not going to take any credit for the metering. I'll take credit for the composition, and that's about it. But I'm really happy with how the highlights have held up. The shadows are quite deep, but I think the contrast with the bright light of the machines worked out really well. And this is a favourite shot of the day for me. It's a really big personal favourite. It's very similar to a shot that I've had before in an arcade, and I shot it on my Fuji, the original Fujifilm X100, and the pairing would be great in a book. Something that I might do in the future, but right now I'm extremely happy with this one singular shot. To be honest, when I was going to photograph in this arcade setting, I was really quite apprehensive as how the shots would turn out, because the setting indoors was really quite dark. You had the quite bright lights coming in from all the machines, but there wasn't really much like harsh lighting anywhere. So the contrast between the highlights and the shadows was quite great, and with the rep that the Kodak Colour Plus has, with the dynamic range being quite poor, I was really quite nervous. And this camera is point and shoot. It has no settings control. The only thing is if you put a flash on, I'm not going to put a flash on for this kind of setting. So I kind of had to hope for the best that the camera metered for a slow enough shutter speed that I could hold it for still enough to get the shots that I wanted. And it did pretty well. So I shot 2 images of the actual arcade setting as a whole, one in portrait and one in landscape, and one of them only had motion blur, and I was quite happy with that. The one that had the motion blur I actually still really like, because it gives this kind of memory feeling, this feeling of, I don't know, kind of nostalgia. To me, it gives me a bit of comfort. And it also relates back to an image that I shot in the summer of last year. I think it was towards the end, to be fair. And I shot in an indoor setting of like a gumball machine like a dispenser. And I shot it with a Minolta 7000 AF with my Kodak Gold 200, and I didn't meter it properly, so the shutter speed was slightly off and it had a bit of a blur to it. And I think this effect for these types of settings work really well, because depending on the feeling and the atmosphere that you're trying to get out of your images, having a slow shutter speed sometimes provokes more emotion than having a clean cut shot. And this, for me, is what it's done in this one. And once I finished photographing in Nuki on the Kodak Colour Plus, I came home and realised I had a couple of shots left, and there's nothing quite like it when you're photographing your cat once the blinds have just been opened and he's basking in the sunlight. And I just absolutely loved it. I had to photograph it, and he was very overexposed in this shot, but actually sat on my sister's windowsill. It's actually a really gorgeous shot, and it's something that I'm actually really happy with. Overall, I'm really impressed with how this combination turned out. I'm extremely happy, and it gives me a little bit of confidence that sometimes these systems can do really well. The cheap film stocks can also work out really well, surprisingly, compared to what you see online sometimes. You don't need the big Portrait 400s, you don't need the Portrait 800s, or even the Cinestill. So they are amazing to use, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's a lot of money. And sometimes you just want to photograph without having the pressure of, oh, I've just spent all this money on this film roll, I want to get it perfect. And having the cheap film camera and the cheap film rolls sometimes works out even better than you would have hoped. And I'm extremely happy with the shots. And out of the 24 shots, I'm extremely happy with 17 of them. Some that I might have shown throughout the video, and some that are here now because they're very similar to previous shots. But 17 images that I'm extremely happy with for a camera that had no control over the settings, a really cheap film stock that it's kind of okay online. Like the rep that it has is okay, it's nothing crazy, it's entry-level film. But I think sometimes entry-level film and entry-level photography can be forgotten as how great it can be. And this has proven it to me. This is actually my second roll of Kodak Colour Plus. I was going to make a thumbnail with the first roll in the first box and I threw it away, but I'm actually really glad after seeing the thumbnails that I got from the film shop that I actually then bought another roll purely for the thumbnail, and I am going to use it. I'm going to load it up and I'm going to keep using it throughout, even as like behind the scenes for if I do bigger shoots. I'm really impressed. So if you are looking for a cheap film stock, get yourself some Kodak Colour Plus and a cheap point and shoot. If you're wanting to get into film photography, sometimes it's getting the idea of what colours you like and then going into manual if you are really that interested. So if you've enjoyed the video, a like and a subscribe down below would be really greatly appreciated. As I said in the video, I'm going to be posting these images on my Instagram at Granny Creates. We're road to 400 over there. We're getting really close, and so a follow over there would be greatly appreciated if you've liked the images throughout. And I do have a code with Dehancer, code Granny in all capitals, to save 10% off on your purchases. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the video and the images shown, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one.